Okay, so we have this quiz, and about half the class did real well. The other half got a start but missed a couple of important points. We want to make sure we understand those points. I've already advised everybody, and this is for the benefit of people who might not be here today. A couple of people aren't feeling well, and then there's some people who just aren't here, probably because they know everything. I mean, most people that aren't here, you know, come along pretty well. So could well be that the stuff we're into is stuff people know pretty well, and they just didn't see a need to be here. Although I do recommend that you come to class. I think you always pick up something. Also, you show me how you're progressing. Now, I should be able to tell you that, how you're progressing, but on these last couple of assignments, Open Math is just hiding all your work from me, and I can't seem to find a way to access it. We'll work on that later. Okay, so anyhow, you've got this quiz here. Now, the first thing that people are missing is that if you have an absolute value sign equation, you can't just remove the absolute value signs and solve the resulting equation. You haven't solved the absolute value equation if you remove the absolute value signs. Okay? Now, let's say absolute value of x equals 11. Okay? I don't think anybody has a name long enough that the number of letters in their shortest of their three, first, middle, and last names is 11, but could have. Okay? So you got absolute value of x equals 11. Well, there are two values of x that make that so. So x can be 11, since the absolute value of 11 equals 11. S can also be negative 11, since the absolute value of negative 11 equals 11. Now, I'll write this out as a solution set. I don't know that Open Math asks you to do this. It's a good idea to understand the notation. Open Math probably would let you put in 11, comma 11 or something like that. I prefer, and I don't know if Open Math would even accept it, so, do what Open Math accepts. If you're doing your homework in Open Math, right? But when you do it in here, try to maybe consider writing it out like this. Okay? I really think Open Math should accept this, but the way they've phrased the problem, they might well say give your answer as two numbers separated by a comma, and maybe they wouldn't accept the braces, okay? But anyhow, those are your solutions. Now, formally, the way you solve an absolute value equation, you write down the equation, 11. So, x could be 11 or x could be negative 11. Either way, if x is either of these numbers, its absolute value has to be 11. And it's an or statement. That's going to be important. When you get the absolute value inequalities, you got to realize that it could be this or it could be this. It can't be this and this, because if it's this, it's not this, and if it's this, it's not this. It's an or. Could be one or the other, but x can't have both values at the same time. Okay? One value or the other. Kind of important to get that or there for things you're going to do in the future. So you want to write that out, exactly like I wrote it out. If you're not writing it out this way, many of you are, then you need to be. Okay, well, that's it. So we're done. Okay? The solution set, negative 11, 11. Now, let's take absolute value of x minus, say, 9 equals 11. For some reason I like 11, it's easy to write. That's not really it. Okay? What do you do here? Well, logically, any value of x that makes x minus 9 11 is going to solve the equation, right? But any value of x that makes this negative 11 is also going to be a solution, right? So if x minus 9 is 11, again, we write the or statement. Whatever's in the absolute value sign can be 11 or it can be negative 11. Well, then x equals 11 plus 9 equals 20, or x equals negative 11 plus 9 equals negative 2. Now, we always want to check. It would be a little silly to check this because we don't really have to write anything out to check it. Because we know the absolute value of 11 is 11, absolute value of negative 11 is negative 11. But here, it's a good idea to check. Absolute value of 20 minus 9 equals the absolute value of 11, which is 11. Okay? So that checks the 20. So I'll just put a little check mark there. Okay, I believe we got that. And then the absolute value of negative 11, negative 2, minus 9 equals, well, negative 2 minus 9 is negative 11. So that one checks. So our solution set is negative 2, 20. Okay, now I'm going to tell you something else that's kind of interesting and quite important. We'll come back to the remaining problem. If here's a number line, your solutions are negative 2, 20. And of course, 0 would be maybe about here. Okay? Now what's halfway between negative 2 and 20? Well, to get a number halfway between two numbers, and it's worth making note of this, you just add the two numbers and divide by 2. If you add negative 2 to 20, you get 18. Divide that by 2, you get 9, right? 18 divided by 2 is 9. Okay? So we get 9, which would be here halfway between the solutions is negative 2 plus 20 over 2 equals 9, right? Now how far is it from 9 to 20? Well, that distance is 11, isn't it? And you count it in your fingers, if you got an extra finger somewhere. Okay? Or you can subtract, 20 minus 9 is 11, right? And then in this direction, this distance here is 11. Now I'm going to make it a distance, not a directed displacement. So this distance is also 11. From negative 2 to 9 is 11. You can, again, count that on your fingers almost. Borrow a finger somewhere. I didn't do a very good job of getting that exactly halfway. This 11 looks a little bigger than this one. That's because I don't know how to draw. Okay. Got the idea? Well, what does 11 have to do with this? That's the absolute value here. So we have absolute value of x minus 9 equals 11. So your 11 is this, and your 9 is right here. This is saying the distance between x and 9 is 11. Now again, if you understand this, I'm not going to spend too much more time on this, you really ought to get that idea in your head because it's a way of visualizing the solution to the inequality. So I'm going to kind of mention that. You know, maybe some of the other solutions. Well, anyhow. Okay, so let's take the problem. Let's say it's absolute value 7 minus 2x. I'm just going to stick with 11. Okay? Well, this means seven minus 2x is 11, or 7 minus 2x is negative 11. Okay? Well, both of these are really easy to solve. We get negative 2x equals 4, or we get negative 2x equals negative 18, right? I think we're going to check it to make sure, so I'm not even going to double check my thinking on this. Maybe I wrote down something ignorant because I've always got to double check myself, right? So I might have done my arithmetic, you know, I did it quickly in my head, which is kind of obvious. Trying to be a little bit, you know, working memory sometimes lets me down. So, okay, so anyhow, negative 2x equals 4. Well, that's negative 2x over negative 2 equals 4 over negative 2, so that x equals negative 2. This one, negative 2x over negative 2 equals negative 18 over negative 2. And I do want you to get in the habit of writing out every step. I know you can skip steps on these simple problems here, but if you're in the habit of skipping steps, you're going to be really sorry when we get to more complicated equations, okay? You want to get in the habit right now. What I'm noticing in my pre-calculus class, both in the class and the support class, is people are very sloppy with their algebra, and it's really starting to bite. And we're not that far into the course, okay? People are not paying good attention to all the details, okay? You want to get in the habit of paying good attention to the details. Now, these people have had intermediate algebra. I think it'll come back to them, but it's getting in their way right now, making it harder to understand the pre-calculus, okay? Just kind of like it's harder to understand this stuff if you don't know arithmetic, right? You have to know the intermediate algebra, and we're not even into intermediate algebra, although we're kind of getting there. Okay. So anyhow, you solve this. Again, the thing I want to emphasize is you really have to show every step. Do every step. Don't skip anything. Unless you want to resort to magic, which sometimes works and sometimes doesn't, okay? And at some point, everybody has to resort to magic. say, well, I think it might be this. I'm not sure why. I'm going to try it, right? It's okay to do that, but when it doesn't work, then you got to go back and correct your thinking, okay? Okay, so anyhow, this gives us x equals 9. So we check, because I don't totally believe my solution yet. I haven't thought about it critically. I think it's probably right, but I don't know. Okay, so absolute value of 7 minus 2 times negative 2 equals 11. So that's absolute value of 7 plus 4 equals 11. So 11 equals 11. So we've checked our negative 2 solution. And then absolute value of 7 minus 9. 7 minus 2 times 9. See what I mean? I almost wrote down 9, but I realized that wasn't going to work because it was going to give me a negative 2 here, and 2 is not equal to 11. Okay, but okay, now we got this, and that's absolute value 7 minus 18 equals 11. Absolute value negative 11 equals 11, so 11 equals 11. And that checks the 9. So now our solution set is negative 2, 9. Okay? Again, the thing I emphasize is that any absolute value equation is going to split into 2 equations. Okay? One of which will give you the number you're looking for under the absolute value, the other of which will give you the negative of that number under the absolute value sign. We good with this? Make yourself a note. Make sure, okay? You don't want this to get in your way, because it'll get in your way again and again and again.